Hello, I'm in the studio again. Today we're doing a seascape. I'm going to give you a quick rundown. I'm going to do the first round of the seascape. Seascapes are really good. Um, I love the force of the ocean. I love all the different things, the dynamics of water hitting rocks. It's the power of the two different opposing forces, basically. That's what I've actually titled some of my work. I have a picture up here I took from Wallace Sand State Beach. I'm always driving up and down Ocean Boulevard when I can. And again, the primary thing I'm going to do here, I have my strong influence is my mentor, John Terrelack, my Frank Benson, probably not so much with the seascapes, but Winslow Homer is probably my primary inspiration for seascapes. He used strong diagonals in many cases, and he put, again, diagonals represent opposing forces. They're dynamic. It's a better design element to use it to use a diagonal. I have an image here. I'm going to establish my horizon line. I'm going to have a high horizon because when you're looking down, especially this particular viewpoint, you're looking down at the rocks and you're looking at the wave axis with the rocks. In other cases, you'd have, in order to get a lower horizon, you'd have to be down among the rocks. And that's not impossible. Could be dangerous in some places. But again, I have a fairly high horizon. I have some land on that, which is going to, I'm just going to give an indication there. So my horizon's not straight, but I know that that's where the land is. I'm going to just give a rough representation of land. I'm starting out the painting. I'm going to start this out the same way I started out the landscape. I'm going to work my darks in first. Rocks are great to paint because it doesn't have to be, it's not like, well, that doesn't look like that rock. Rocks are rocks. You're going to have, they're going to be lighter colored up closer to shore. They're going to get darker as they get down closer to the water. And there's going to be places where they're going to be highly reflective of the sky. So there's a lot of different color combinations going on here, a lot of different things you can do. Then you've got the water and the waves, and the wave action. There's a lot of good brush work you can do there. What I'm going to do today is I'm just going to lay in my darks, and I'm working on a diagonal, not much unlike Winslow Homer. And I've got an image here, and I've got some different things going on. And this rock is, these rocks are have a lot of very angular. If you go to Gloucester and look at the seashores there, and again, you should be studying this stuff. If you want to paint, you just can't say, hey, give me a brush, I'm going to paint something today. You need to research what you're doing. I look at what I'm doing all the time. I'll go and sit and watch waves. I take, and I know what's happening a lot. What's going on with my subject matter. You got to know your subject matter. It helps to know. And so I know it's dark, and to the rocks, and it's beautiful. And it's a beautiful experience. Things are, but for the most part, I know it's. This is the biggest brush I have for acrylic. I don't have. I have bigger oil brushes, but I always start from go in colors. I'm looking things that where I want to put where things are going to be. Homer always worked with diagonals, so here's my diagonal. I'm going to have this is going to be broken up by the waves, by the water. So I'm not worried about that. My sky color and my lightest light is going to be the sky. I'm going to treat the land as I would. It's going to be darker, and There will be some different value changes there, but and again, depends on the sun and all kinds of different. But the sea is going to be highly um, on the ocean. So that's an example right now. I know that there's a lot of white. The rocks have colors and light grays and stuff, but I'm not worrying about that right now. I'm putting things where they should be, everything arranged up with. So the ocean will change color every single day. It could be a dark blue, could be light blue, could be light green, could be gray. There's a whole different. You have to figure that out and establish gray here, and I'm gonna have like a lighter gray sky to keep it all together, basically to keep it the sky. It's going to be a grayish because it's reflective. So you're going to be getting a lot from the color from sky. It's going to be on the ocean where there is no sky. It's going to be some. The ocean's going to have some deep ridges because the depth of the water is going to be revealed to you. And okay, so that's good. I'm going to put that in there, and that's going to be my water for the beginning of this. And again, this is a start. This is round one. I'm laying in all my colors. I'm laying them in thinly. I'm washing them in, basically. It's not much unlike a watercolor wash. I'm not too concerned about getting this around where the rocks are, because where the rocks are is going to be where the water is, churning and boiling. So I want that there. I don't have to have too much in there. And again, I'm going to build this up. This is going to change. It's going to change, and I'm planning on that. I know it has to change, so I'll change it. And but again, experience tells me what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to do a lot of different things with this, with my experience. So now I'm going to head right to the sky. I'm going to use a very similar color, and I'm going to make the sky the same way I made the sky before. I like clouds in my skies, but again, remember, clouds it's water vapor. It's water vapor, and it's not going to be distinct and heavy. You don't want it a heavy sky. You can have a light sky. That you shouldn't have heavy clouds. Your clouds, you can have dark clouds. There are storms out there, and you want to have dark purple clouds, but it shouldn't look like a dark purple piece of iron. It should be. There should be. It should look like air. It is. It's what it is. It's air. And again, the surface here, we're working on paper simply to kind of save money and to do this right. But down the road a piece, you should be working on at least canvas panels. I work on canvas boards. As I'm doing this, I'm seeing how my ocean is evolving, and my ocean's going to be lighter farther away, and it's going to get darker as it gets close. And again, I'm not worried about it. I'm going to make mistakes. There's going to be some stuff happening here, and I'm not worried about it too much. Don't be afraid. A lot of people are afraid to make mistakes on a painting, and it's sort of almost like it's a taboo. You know what? Make mistakes. Don't worry about them. You can correct. You can paint over. If this is a watercolor, now you can't do that. I mean, it is water-based paint. But a watercolor, and we're going to learn watercolor later on, you can't do... I got to get my... I didn't realize my mug is in the way there. You can't do a watercolor like this, because a watercolor is susceptible to your mistakes. You make a mistake in a watercolor, and you've got to start over again. There are people, I've read accounts and how people can, you can do this and change it, but you know, it's rip up the paper and start over again. It's sort of like a one-shot deal. So now I'm finding my rock, probably a little bit on the light side. So I'm going to start drawing into my rocks and get some darks here. And again, the vertical rocks are going to be darker. The crevices are going to be darker where there's space in there. In between the rocks is going to be space. And this is, you know what? If this is going to look like is this the exact rock that was there? I have no idea, and no one's going to care. If you care, you know, tell them thank them very much for looking at your work, but don't sell it to them because they don't appreciate what you're doing. Say thank you very much, but I'll save it. That's not for sale. And then someone's going to come look at this and they're going to be inspired. They're going to say, wow, I can feel the ocean on this. And then they'll buy it from you. And you'll know it's in a good home. Technically, I really don't care what home they go into. But all right, so now I've got my whole canvas in here. And basically, it's not too bad. Again, I've got to lay in more paint eventually. Now I'm going to have the waves. You can have swirling waters. You can have the wave receding. You can have the wave coming in. And what are you going to do? How are you going to treat this? It's dry already, which is good in some ways and new in others. I like to mix the paint. When you're mixing with an old, get a little bit into the paint. Mix a little bit of my new paint with the old paint, and it kind of breaks up some of these hard lines. I don't want hard lines, hard edges. So, anyways, I'm looking at this, and I'm going to put a little bit more oomph in the sky. I've gone down to a smaller brush now because it's dried. I'm going to go into, I'm almost moving right into the second round right now. In round 2, I would build up my paint surface. Round 2, I would start enhancing my colors and start making it look a little bit. And again, an impressionist, I'm painting with the thought process of spots of color. To put dots of color here, and nothing's going to be no big solid walls of color. Everything's going to be broken up. It's going to be a bunch of little pieces of color. And that's just the way I do things. It's influenced strongly by the Impressionist, and that's basically how I was taught, and that's how I'm going to do things. And again, the paper is not lending itself to a lot of really good things here, but that's okay. Do this going in, and so I'm going to put my landmass a little bit out. It's going to be gray. I've got a landmass. It's right here, and it's receding because that's what they do. This is the coast. This is the far coast, and then as it gets closer, it gets a little bit bigger. So I've got the section of coast here going that way. And again, I'm using the my photograph. I take a lot of photographs. If I could take the camera off the tripod like it's stuck right now and showed you all the boxes, you'd think I was a lunatic. I've got boxes of photos everywhere. I take hundreds and hundreds of photos. So I started dark. I went to the middle valley, the ocean, and then I went to the high value. Now I'm going back down, and I'm going to go into the rocks again. But now I'm going a slightly way, and I'm going to gray color. Now again, these gray colors, my colors up here, but that's all right. The rocks closer to the surf are going to be wet, and they're going to be a bit darker because that wetness is going to be darker, make them darker. And again, I like painting rocks because this is where I can add brush strokes. I can just take brush strokes and throw some brush strokes around. And it's the kind of painting I like to do. And again, you may be more have a formula for this. That's fine too. But again, the process: light, dark to light, fat over thin. So I've got a nice gray here, a greenish gray, and again I'm going to keep the greenish tone gray here to and now I'm going to start laying in some rocks. Now I can just take and make dabs and dots of what these rocks are. All these rocks are all broken up. There's bits and pieces here. There's little chasms in between, and I'm going to take them and I'm going to exploit them all. And I'm going to make my rocks. And again, this is round one. These rocks will all be highlighted, done a little bit later, a little bit differently later. I'll add to this. But you notice my diagonals. I have this main diagonal here, and I'm going to have the water coming in and splashing here. But I'm making some other diagonals. Now I could put these strokes in different directions, but I'm putting these strokes because I want you to. The focal point is going to be right here when I get to the big wave, and I want you to look at that wave and go, whoa. And I'm going to bring right to it. An artist, a good artist, is going to show you what they want you to see. It's not an accident. Some people go and they set their canvas up and they look at a building and they paint the building and they walk away. They could have taken a snapshot of that building because that's all they came away with. They spent a lot of time using paint. Now, this isn't going to look anything like that up there. You're getting a bunch of me here. And don't be afraid to use different colors. And again, if you don't want me, that's fine. You don't buy it. You leave it on the thing. You go to another gallery and buy someone else's work. But this is where my rubber road. And I'm going to, again, this is first round. And I'm just giving the indication of where these rocks are. They're going to get lighter, go up. Get closer to the shore, which is the closest of the shore is to my right. There's basically I'm not using the sun here. I could put some sun if I wanted to, but the rocks are going to be lighter up here. And they're going to be, water hasn't been touching them. And I'm just making little spots of color. I'm letting the brush, all these little dynamic little gestures, little innuendos here. And where I don't want it so, I use a lighter hand with it. And so now I'm starting to have rocks come out and pop out of here. And there's going to be some spots. Not all the rocks along the water are going to be wet. All depends on waves. Lots of depending upon this. The water is an amazing force. And you've got two opposing forces hitting here. And it's an amazing event. And you say, well, it's a big splash of water. Yeah, but it's a big splash of water. There's just things happening here that are crazy. So I'm getting to the end of round one. And I'm going to add my waves. Now, water, if you look at water, there's a lot of foam. There's a lot of different things. And this particular picture, there is something happening in this crack here. Water is coming up. And again, water, clouds, doesn't have any, it's water. It's not solid. You can't paint it as it's like a bunch of white rocks coming up on the shore. You've got to make it look like water. And it's coming towards you now, because here's my other diagonal. I've got a diagonal bringing you up here. I've got all these diagonals, and they're all converging here right in the middle. And you let the brush work. The waves are coming in, and you let the brush work do the work. With the stroke of the brush, the rocks will work their way into the waves, into the rocks rather, and the water will be, it'll seep down and go through and around, and it drips, and it does all kinds of things, and it forms little pools. And you don't want to get too carried away. I can make this look like something that just came from Hawaii or something. I don't want to do that. This isn't a surfing wave, although there are people in surfing. I'm letting the brush make some distinct marks here. And foamy water is usually always whitish. That's a dull white. Right now I'm not... it's very modular. It's not any big, solid, continuous marks. It's a bunch of little marks that it's making. Well, actually, that you're making. You're making a bunch of marks because the water is not all one big solid thing. It's something happening. It's something happening. At the storms, watching the rocks, watching the water, and I was there. I took hundreds of photographs when I went down to see how my mother was doing the beat and check up with her, and it was just an amazing thing to see all the different things that were happening out there, the waves and all the. I mean, it's never, no two waves are ever the same. They're all different. They lightening the water a little bit, and again, I got it. It's starting to get overworked. So I want to get off of it, get away from this. And you're gonna soil the paint, your initial color, with the color beneath. So I don't want any other colors affecting this right now. So you should change your brush It's okay to go above. And again, this is round one. And I'm going to let it sit. It'll dry tomorrow, and there'll be something I can do. The colors are changing, and they get darker. So you're going to lose some of those crisp. Let the brush make the mark and create the rock for it. Don't be intimidated by anything on here. Just do it. And if it doesn't come out right, you take the paper and you start over again. Rocks. And I'm starting to overwork it, so I'm going to stop. But I got to work on the middle sky, but right now it's just the paper's bending and it's all wet, soaking wet. So I'm going to change that later. The rocks I'm not feeling too bad about. Again, I'm not, this is a, not my normal medium. But look at it from a distance. Should always step back and take a look at it. And you can see it from a distance. I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the screen. I can see this on the screen. It doesn't look too bad. But from your, if you can get to this is not something I'd even tried to sell, but this is stuff that I do, so I know what they look like. I know what they're supposed to do and supposed to look like. And some of my oils will be basically the same thing. conditions, different